here in the city of Visby, a place of outsized importance on our journey throughout Swedish history. The amazing walls behind me here were built in the late 1200s to protect the strategically vital trading port here in Visby, where all the Germans and Hansa merchants were trading throughout the Baltic Sea. And if you can think they look impressive now, you can only imagine how impressive they would have looked to the people of the 13th century when they were built. I can't even imagine how we would build them today, let alone back then. Ever since they were raised, the walls of Visby have been a setting for some important events in Swedish history, not least the Battle of Visby in 1361. They were built to defend the important trading town that was building up in Visby, including the impressive German churches and the cathedral, which are everywhere you turn in the city. The defences weren't built all in one go, though. The Kruttornet, the gunpowder tower, was built first and is one of the oldest surviving non-religious buildings in the Nordics. Just looking at the scale of the walls, you can see how impressive they are in the modern day. Just imagine if you're a medieval peasant, though. Walking around them, climbing the towers, it really strikes you how tall and imposing they are, especially the 51 towers, over half of which still remain standing today. Another striking thing about the walls of Visby are the number of gates. You might think there'd be just one or two, but there's a whole bunch of them, and one's even flanked by an optician's. The walls are 3.5 kilometres long and are surprisingly intact. Visby is the best preserved Northern European walled town and a stunning example of a fortified commercial centre from the Hanseatic period. The walls might look impressive, but they almost immediately started a civil war on Gotland. The city burghers inside the walls started taxing everybody coming in the gates wanting to trade inside the city, including the farmers of Gotland. This eventually led to a fight between the city and the farmers, which ultimately ended in a stalemate. The Swedish king managed to hammer out a peace treaty and brought the island closer into the Swedish sphere of influence. Differences at least partly settled, the people of Gotland and the burghers of Visby got on with their lives. But in 1361, just a decade after the Black Death came to Scandinavia, King Valdemar of Denmark invaded Gotland. The farmer militia of Gotland rose up and tried to defend their homeland. Knowing there would be no help coming from King Magnus in Sweden, the Gotlanders were on their own. The first peasant militia gathered their arms and rushed to meet the invaders. After losing this first battle against the Danes and their German mercenaries at Mesterby, 20 kilometres away, the Gotlandic farmer militia retreated to Visby. There they met with reinforcements who were too late to fight in this first encounter. They prepared to defeat the Danes, this time by the city. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact location of the Battle of Visby, thanks to the buildings of the modern-day city that are now spreading out beyond the walls, but it's out here somewhere. The Gotlandic farmer militia made their final stand against the Danish army just the other side of the wall behind me. They fought backs to the city walls. They died together, young and old, defending their countryside. The choice of this location was most likely tactical, so they couldn't be outflanked by the Danish cavalry or by the Danish army. The mass graves found outside the city walls perhaps tell the story best. Around 1,800 dead, almost all from the Gotland militia. It was a crushing defeat. And so King Valdemar was victorious, and that meant that Visby and Gotland were about to become Danish. Later in history, the island would become home to pirate bands, a pirate king, and pretenders to various thrones in Scandinavia. But that's another story. If you want to learn more about the Battle of Visby in 1361, you can listen to our episode where I interviewed Thomas Nejman of Stockholm University about the battle and its circumstances.